Good morning and welcome to the next episode of our podcast,
where we drink tea and navigate the balance between school and personal life.
I'm Sophia Safe.
And I'm Sophia Curry.
And this is Sip and Spill.
Welcome back to the Tea Journal.
The topic we'll be touching on today is setting healthy goals and achieving success.
So the first thing we can talk about is, why is achieving success so addictive?
So according to Harvard Business School professor and former CEO Arthur Brooks, success addicts become successful by working more than others. They believe that they have to keep up that pace to maintain their astronomical productivity. The initial positive rewards of productivity give way to fear of failing. Soon enough, work crowds out relationships and outside activities. With little else, work is all that is left, reinforcing the cycle. So let's break this quote down a little bit. What is Brooks saying?
I think everybody can relate to, that fear of failing if they aren't productive, or if you're somebody who constantly feels as if they need to be working, the initial positive rewards of productivity can give way to that fear of failing, because if you get too wrapped up in that productivity and you can't put it down, it thus creates that fear that you're going to fail if you are not constantly moving.
And what comes with that is giving all of your mental energy and all of your energy whatsoever to that work, which cuts out everything else that may have been important to you in the past, and like Brooks said, relationships and so on and so forth.
And to touch on, so this is a really great follow-up episode to, I believe, last week's episode on burnout. And one of the biggest things that, people who go through burnout is they can't, they're overworked, they're tired, and, ultimately they burn out. And, this success addiction can lead to burnout. And as Arthur Brooks stated, with it soon creates, work will crowd out relationships, other activities, and then, you can even begin to start not enjoying the activities you used to do or not wanting to be around people. And so ultimately this addiction kind of becomes your one and all. It's very similar, I think, to any addiction, really.
Right, yeah.
It's, the main focus. If you're not getting on that, then it's, your body is like, oh God, what am I going to do?
And then again with that, because it has crowded out all outside activities, your only validation is coming from work, only feeding into that cycle, as Brooks had said before.
And, I think a lot of people, go-getters are like, that's great and good for you, and I'm definitely a go-getter myself, and, achieving that ultimate goal is great, but I think, especially in the society we live in today, where everything is, your accomplishments are even more widely known, through social media and all that we get wrapped up in achieving it and forget about, the little things and the present moment, and we're so focused on what's to come and what we can do better. So I think that also definitely feeds into that success of wanting to be as good as the people around you, which, will feed into the next thing is overworking yourself and pushing limits. So this is a quote from the Harvard Business Review as well, says, our brain's reward system, especially the neurotransmitter dopamine, drives us to achieve goals and rewards us with a great sense of pleasure when we do. But that pleasure is short-lived, which, keep in mind, it's short-lived, as our brains are hardwired to also seek balance from extreme emotional states. So
let's break this one down now.
Okay, so let's start with, what is the neurotransmitter dopamine?
Okay, so the neurotransmitter dopamine is a chemical messenger involved in reward-seeking, movement, and motivation. A lot of people call dopamine one of the happiness endorphins.
Yes, and I think a lot of people experience, dopamine highs, let's say like amusement parks, like going on rides and hanging out with people, just like those fun activities definitely give you that sense of dopamine. And, dopamine can also come as a result of, unfortunately, some drugs and chemicals that we put into our body that can become gravely dangerous to us.
Absolutely. And dopamine can also come from your achievements. So tying back into our topic for today, the way you achieve goals and the way you get about them is specifically sometimes used to produce dopamine for yourself. And that cycle where you feel the dopamine from an achievement and you want to go back to doing that thing so you can regain that feeling of success. Wow, everyone is so proud of me. I'm so proud of myself. That feeling is what most people seek, and it's not a bad thing to seek.
Yes.
It's just when it gets to being unhealthy is when we have to really address it.
Yes. Similarly, like you said, this is also part of the reason why video games and social media can get so addictive, is because, you know, that feeling of success when you win a game or you get something, it gives you that dopamine high. And it, you know, it becomes addictive because it's very short-lived. And so ultimately, you know, your body is in search for it again. And because, you know, video games and social media are so readily available, you can get the hit over and over again. And again, just like a drug, it becomes an addiction, which is really dangerous. So in terms of overworking yourself and pushing those limits, comparing it, like we said, to the video game, you know, you're trying to get that hit of dopamine again, so you're overworking yourself and, you know, you're trying to get to that point again. And that comes at an expense of your, you know, life balance, and it can cause extreme emotional states and stuff like that.
So the next thing we want to touch on is what a workaholic is.
Okay. So the term refers to a deleterious inability to disconnect from your job. When work dominates your thoughts and your activities to the detriment of other aspects of your life, relationships, and health, you are displaying workaholic tendencies. This is also coming from the Harvard Business Review.
So, first of all, what does deleterious mean?
Yes. So deleterious means causing harm or damage, which, I mean, I think we can kind of gather from some of the root words in there. But in respect to the definition of a workaholic, a deleterious inability to disconnect from your job. So it's ultimately damaging, again, your ability to disconnect from your work life and pull away and move into a balance.
Specifically, the inability to do that.
Yes.
So
Go ahead.
So it really, like the Harvard Business Review had said, when work is dominating all of your thoughts and all of your activities, it pushes away your life, your relationships, and your health. Usually a lot of psychologists bring into view a pie.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
You want to not have... Okay, let me restart. Okay.
Go for it.
So imagine the things that you make yourself. The things to make you. Imagine that being a pie. Now imagine your entire pie is cherry. Let's say your work is cherry. If your entire pie is cherry, you are going to be sick of that cherry pie.
Yeah.
You don't have room for any other pie because
Yes.
cherry is filling up the whole thing. Whereas you want to have room for pumpkin, you want to have room for apple.
Yes. Okay, so it's almost like it's like a time pie, almost like you're saying
Yes.
this is where you delegate your time in
Yes.
in terms of your life.
And so if your entire pie is filled with cherries, you don't have room for anything else. All of your validation is coming from one place.
Yeah. And sometimes, and I want to bring this to light, it's not necessarily a choice that people make. Some people do choose and eventually get wrapped up in this, but sometimes it's thrust upon them. Like kids, I think, depending on their personality and, you know, this is not to shame any parents or any way of life, but based on, you know, the environment they grow up in, some kids, I think, because of the stressing of school and how rigorous it can be, get thrown into those workaholic tendencies because they have to. If they don't, then ultimately they'll fall behind.
Have you ever watched The Devil Wears Prada?
No, but I want to.
Oh my god. Okay.
Sorry guys, I'm uncultured.
Oh my god. Okay, well now I'm going to try to explain something to you. That'll be a lot harder now that I know you haven't watched the movie.
Okay, well, explain it to the audience.
So essentially the main character, she is basically trying to become an assistant to this I don't know what to call her, like she's not a journalist, she's like the head of a magazine, okay?
Yeah.
And
The editor.
essentially, the editor, yes. Thank you. So,
Because this was based off of Anna Wintour and stuff, right? I think so.
I didn't know that.
I think so. I think that's what it was. I know a little bit about the movie, so I'll be able to catch up.
Thank you. Either way, what happens is her work ends up taking over her whole life. Her boyfriend breaks up with her. She ends up actually cheating on him in the movie. And you also see that the head editor's life is also falling apart because of her extreme dedication to her work.
Yes.
She is consumed by it. Everything is her work. And at the end of the movie, she talks to the main character, and she says that her work is her life and no one can do what she does the way she does it. Because her entire life is her work. She ends up having to divorce one of her many past husbands again, because she does not have room for anything else in her life except for her work.
Yeah.
And that is what happens when you're a workaholic.
And that doesn't necessarily mean, like, you know, Hollywood's very dramatized. It doesn't mean you're going to have a billion spouses and you're going to divorce all of them. But it does have a tendency to take over your life. And like I was saying with, you know, kids being thrust into that type of environment and headspace, it is detrimental. And I always find it really funny to... It's funny when, you know, teachers always say to you, like, oh, go out, have a social life. You know... involve yourself, do whatever, and then you get, you know, all this homework and everything's so hard, and it's you're like, how do you expect me to have a social life when I have to do all this work? And even if you do have a social life or you do join extracurriculars, those themselves
also take up a lot of
energy and a lot of time, and it's just like overall, like, you can be like a schoolaholic.
Yeah.
Because you just have to keep moving, and this is one of the things we talked about in the burnout.
And it's not a choice.
No. Because like I said before, you'll fall behind, and that's hard, and this is how ultimately people burn out.
Okay, so how do you set good, healthy goals?
Well, there are a few things to talk about. So balance between taking care of yourself and staying on top of goals and plans. So this can look like setting micro goals or SMART goals. So do you want to talk a little bit about what a SMART goal is?
Sure. So SMART is itself an acronym. Acronym?
Yes.
For specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and trackable. Let's start with specific.
So specific, you know, obviously it sounds exactly like what it is. Specific means what is your specific goal? So you don't want anything that's too broad. You want something for sure, like eating healthier sounds like a good idea, but what does it really mean? So you can aim for a more specific goal, such as eliminating soda, eating 5 servings of vegetables a day, or limiting your daily sugar intake to 30 grams of added sugar.
Okay. So then measurable is to make the goal one you can measure. A goal of walking more, for example, is not easily measured.
Yes.
So you could change it by saying walking 3 days a week so that you can monitor your progress.
So a lot of these things you're going to notice are quantified rather than just saying you'll do something. So the next one is attainable, which is avoid aiming too high or too low. So think like Goldilocks and find that goal that feels just right.
Another part of the SMART is realistic. So, for example, losing 10 pounds a week sounds great, but it's an impossible goal that will leave you discouraged and more likely to give up. So by choosing realistic goals you can meet will reinforce your efforts and keep you moving forward. Losing 1 pound per week is realistic and sustainable.
And I want to say realistic goals are really important. You know, everybody wants to attain their dream body, dream life, you know, it girl aesthetic. But I think a lot of people forget about the micro steps, and this is why I think a lot of people struggle to actually succeed in those goals, and then they either become too attached to the results and, you know, burn themselves out or give up entirely. And also, just to know, you can find all of these resources that we're using. So this one specifically, we're talking through Mayo Clinic Health, and they will all be linked in our description.
Correct.
So you can go back if you're curious and read more about this. So the next letter in SMART is T, which is trackable. So Choosing specific measurable goals means you can track your improvement over time. Write your efforts down in a journal or track them on an app so you can see how far you've come.
It is very important to remain confident, be patient, and stay focused on your goal.
Yes. And I think one of the things that people forget to do while they are setting goals, and this is, also something that can lead to overworking yourself, give yourself grace. So it doesn't have to be perfect. Consistency is good, but if you miss a day, it's okay.
Of course.
You can make up for it, but that's all part of taking care of yourself, and maintaining that healthy balance is allowing yourself to take that time and really listen to yourself.
Also, a helpful source would be our episode on self-care for busy lives.
Yes.
It's a great episode on how to take care of yourself, even when you are bogged down by so much.
And in that episode, we go a little bit more in depth into why it's just not like taking a spa day, and how self-care can really be different than what most people view it to be.
Right.
So the next thing we can use is the University of Colorado Boulder lists 8 tips for setting healthy goals. So first one is starting small, then identifying strengths and potential challenges.
And then recruiting a support system, which we talked about in a past episode, again, which is a great resource to look at.
And the next one, as we had already stated, is using SMART goals. And then next is remember your why, and that's really important. I think some people tend to lose sight of that a lot, and you really want to make sure you remember why you're doing this. And take, for example, maybe you want to work out, and maybe you're doing it for aesthetic reasons.
Okay.
But one of the things I hear a lot, and that's something that, personally I work towards, and, I want to look better for myself, but make sure you're doing it for you, and make sure you're doing it for a healthy reason, and that's your why, and you don't get too attached to the results, but you also enjoy the process too.
Right. So more on that is to practice your flexibility,
Yes.
celebrate small successes, and reach out for additional support.
And I think that's when people discount a lot too. It doesn't have to be a lone journey, Again, that touches back on recruit a support system, and you can go back, listen to episode 7. It's a really good episode on why support systems help, and why they are important, and everybody should have one.
Right.
And then the last thing is staying consistent.
So I feel like I've loved to start doing things, setting goals for myself. I want to start crocheting. I'm going to crochet for 10 minutes every day.
Right.
I do it for a week. I do it for 2 weeks. Bang. I didn't do it for a day. I was too busy. I didn't have enough time. Now it's the next day. I don't want to go back to it.
Yeah.
I already skipped a day. I'll just skip another day. It doesn't matter. I just want to scroll my phone for now.
And I find myself doing that a lot too.
Procrastination.
It's not even just procrastination, but I think, once you find that drop, you lose not even motivation, but the interest almost dwindles a little bit because, you're running on that constant, consistency. And that's good. But I think this is, again, to refer back to the 8 tips that we just listed. Remembering your why and practicing that flexibility is really important, because it sounds contradictory, but, that flexibility is part of staying consistent.
Agreed.
Because, you need to be able to, again, have that balance and then be able to come back to it. So sometimes it's about discipline and whether or not you can come back to it. And maybe if you can't and you're not feeling it, that's okay.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you definitely know, like, okay, I'm slacking a little bit, like, I haven't done it maybe a week, like, I should try it again. And then also, don't set too many goals at once.
Yeah.
It's easy to lose track of them, so, break it up into even monthly periods. Like, by the end of, like, this 3-month period, this is my goal for this 3-month period in order to be a better version of myself. And for the next 3 months of the year, I might want to, work out a little bit more, get that into my routine, and then that starts becoming a part of your routine. And then maybe say I want a better skincare routine. So don't just do everything at once. I think that can be overloading, and then you overwork yourself even more. Okay, so I guess the main takeaway would be, are you able to recognize if you're overworking yourself and if you might be somewhat addicted to your work and getting caught up in it? And then how do you set a good healthy goal as a result and learn and work towards moving that? And you can do that by starting small, using SMART goals, micro goals,
Making smart goals.
yes, flexibility, and staying consistent, but also giving yourself grace.
Absolutely. So that pretty much wraps up our tea journal for this week.
Welcome back to Chamomile Corner.
To recap, Chamomile Corner is where we'll go through skills to recenter yourself as well as strengthen your mental health.
We'll also discuss different mental health topics.
For today, we'll be discussing ways to avoid letting work and achievements
rule your life. Okay.
So the first topic we're going to touch on is avoiding taking achievement-oriented breaks.
So this can kind of look like, playing games on your phone can sometimes be achievement-oriented because, again, like we were talking about in the tea journal, that requires a dopamine rush, which, comes from a sense of achievement. It also can be like doing things where you might have to win something or necessarily accomplish something in order to finish it.
Okay. I see where you're coming from, but I have something to say.
Go for it.
So, reading books, for example.
Yes.
You could say reading books isn't achievement-based.
Mm-hmm.
However, I find myself, when I'm near the end of a book, being like, wow, I read this book so fast. I'm going to try to read the next one faster.
Right.
Making it achievement-based.
Right.
And I feel like almost everything you do
yes.
could be achievement-based. Crocheting.
Yes.
Like I said before, reading.
Mm-hmm.
Eating, even.
I think, and I agree with what you're saying, and that's why when I was, funnily enough, talking about this in my therapy sessions, because this is something that I personally have to work on, it's more or less about how you look at it.
Okay.
So, I'm at a loss. I'm trying to think of one of the breaks I used to take, and I just, for some reason, can't remember. But I'll give you an example of a break that is not achievement-oriented for me. I will work on, ironically, this podcast. Now, in a way, you could think that this is achievement-oriented.
You are so right.
Because, we're trying to get as many episodes out and finish things and reach more people and blah, 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 blah. However, for me, and I believe also for Sophia.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not necessarily about, how many followers we get.
No.
Or whatever. It's great and we love it. And we're happy to be, getting the word out to more people and helping more people. However, for us, this is also something we do purely for enjoyment.
You're
because
right.
we like doing it.
Finding that break that is purely for your enjoyment is super important. And I didn't even think of the fact that this podcast is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I didn't even think of it because I've never seen it as something
right.
that I need to work towards. I need to achieve this. No, it's purely fun. I mean,
it's work, but it's fun.
Oh, no.
But for us, it's fun work.
And
we enjoy it.
There's no stress about it. For example, one of our episodes, I was on vacation and Sophia was here, and none of us posted the episode to the YouTube, ironically, and it was posted on a Wednesday, actually.
Whoops.
Which is so funny, but it just goes to show how, stress-free it is. We're not worried about upsetting anyone or, oh my god, we messed this up. What are we going to do? It's going to make us look so bad. And it's purely enjoyment.
Yeah. And I think we are, we can get a little worried. Definitely today we were like, okay, we definitely need to get together. We're not going to have something to release. However, it's not something that is overly consuming our lives or giving us something that we're, stressing about. Instead, it's a point of enjoyment and fun. Just recently, we are planning on, which is a little sneak peek and a little,
I'm so excited.
A little sneak at what we have planning next is we're going to start video recording. And so we're starting to plan our decorations and our setup. And we're loving every minute of it. And none of it is work to us. And we're just having so much fun. Now we're going a little bit on a tangent, but that's an example of a non-achievement oriented, break or project for me. Whereas, something that is more creatively oriented, I feel like there's not necessarily strict achievements attached to it. Again, I can't for the life of me think of an achievement thing that my therapist would say, yeah, but that's still achievement oriented for whatever reason right now, but I'm sure it'll come back to me. But moving on to the next thing.
You can take time off or away. I mean, for example, if this podcast ever became a stressor for us, I think because of who we are, we would be able to take time off or away to recenter ourselves, to know that this isn't for money, this isn't for fame, this is for us.
And ultimately, I think when we talk about, so let's use the podcast mainly for an analogy for this. When we think about things we can do to increase our visibility and increase our reach, one of the things that ends up, ironically worrying me is I don't want to get attached to those things. Absolutely. I don't want to get attached to checking our followers or checking how many views something gets and getting attached to results and thus achievements, rather than just enjoying the process and enjoying what I'm doing because I'm doing it. And Sophia's helped me to say, well, we're just doing this because, it's good for the podcast, it's, and it can be good for us, and it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to get attached to it.
No.
And I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right.
And honestly, so far, we haven't been getting really far. We have an average of 1.5 viewers on every single one of our episodes that we've released on YouTube.
And that's okay.
That's okay. I'm happy with that.
I'm fine.
Because it makes us so happy to be doing what we're doing. We're not upset about the results. It's just the process is what is enjoyable.
Yes. And I think sorry, go ahead.
You go ahead.
Okay. And like I was saying, ultimately, yes, this episode is about achieving a goal and that end thing. But also part of the process of achieving that goal is enjoying the process. If you're not enjoying it as you're going through, you're not going to like where you're going either. And ultimately, that achievement will, at least from my point of view, feel empty and meaningless by the time you get there. Because did you enjoy what you were doing? You lost the enjoyment, you lost the joy, you lost the excitement and all of that from it. So it no longer holds the same value that it used to.
And I think our mantra of this episode can be enjoy the process. Because I feel like that also applies to setting healthy goals. It's the process that gets you to your goals. And if you're only focused on the result, that's what is unhealthy.
Yes. And I want to add to the mantra and say respect the process as well.
Enjoy and respect the process?
Enjoy and respect the process. Because I've seen in the past, this one, TikTok or Reel or whatever, and it was a physical representation of achieving a goal. And basically, so if you picture a staircase, and there's a trampoline next to it, like a big trampoline spanning, the length of the staircase, and this guy's walking up it, and then he falls off one stair and bounces on the trampoline and bounces up to the next stair. And then he continues walking and he bounces and he drops below a stair and he's below where he was. And he continues walking up and he bounces and then he falls back down and then he bounces up higher. And that, I think, is a really good physical and visual representation of the process. It's not going to be linear and you'll fall and you'll, get setbacks.
And you'll learn from those failures.
Yeah, not even failures. I mean, they're just setbacks, minor discrepancies, little things or bigger things that are all as I've grown, I'm starting to become a more trust the process type person. Absolutely. And trust where you're going because things happen for a reason. And I think it's a really calming and healing thing because I think I spent a lot of my life trying too much to control where I was going and the process itself,
Right.
And so when I would have a setback, it would feel really like a big deal to me, and it would feel like the end of the world and be like, how will I ever catch up? When in reality, some of the setbacks that I've experienced in my life have put me ahead in some other aspects and have taken me to a place that I'm happier I went through it.
Absolutely.
And I've
Agreed.
reached the point in my life that I'm like, thank God for this sadly unfortunate experience because it put me where I am. So, to move to the next point, how do we redefine productivity?
So I feel like we can start by breaking things down.
Yes. And I think we talked about this a little bit last week too, with Sophia and in the Tea Journal, productive breaks.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds so contradictory.
It really does.
But like we said last week, it is productive taking a break.
Because you're setting yourself up for success. You're allowing your brain to reset.
And that in and of itself is productive because it's another step in the process. And I think people tend to ignore that step because it doesn't seem like a step that's a part of the process. It's more like something you do after.
Agreed.
And that's not true.
Another part of redefining productivity is allowing things to be the way they are.
So do you want to go into that more?
Sure. I mean,
like, it's all about, like, control, right?
yes.
So, it's okay. So, like I was saying about controlling and wanting to control things, you can't always do that. And so you have to be okay with how some of the things are.
Allowing your work to be what it is, and not pushing yourself beyond your capabilities.
Yes.
You grow as you age, and you grow as you learn.
Yes.
And if you try to do something before you know how to do it, it's not going to be done right. You're going to be taking shortcuts. And you're going to end up being in a place you might not be able to get out of.
Agreed.
And so allowing things to be the way they are, and in that, doing what you're capable of without pushing yourself past your limit, is a part of productivity and being healthily productive.
And this is all a part of having a healthy process to your goal, and this is all a part of respecting that process and enjoying it. That's ultimately how it will be, and sometimes things really are out of your control, and the more you try to control it, the more out of control it can seem to you.
Absolutely. And in that ties an acceptance of certain things, such as an acceptance that you may not be where you wanted to be. And that's okay.
I'm going to take, I love bringing in my own experiences and challenges. So for one of the things that's been a huge struggle for me is my violin. And my skill. And I know we talked about this last week and probably in previous episodes as well. But, I started off ahead of a lot of my classmates because I had previous musical knowledge. And, at a younger age, I had, a more natural talent for it. I just picked it up really easily. However, as you progress, it gets harder. And I didn't get a teacher. And then COVID happened and my growth kind of stunted because if I don't have a teacher, then, you can only progress so far.
Right.
And then I did get a teacher and she wasn't really the best and it was online and I didn't really get anywhere with it. And so I was still kind of at the same point. I didn't, decrease in playing level, but I didn't improve. And middle school came back and that's when everybody started getting good and really being able to play complicated things, and I wasn't finding myself at the same level of some of my peers. And after coming off of having that natural talent and being ahead, it was really hard for me to accept that I was now behind.
I feel like a lot of people online talk about being a gifted child when they're young and now being burnt out, and how I used to read all the time as a kid.
Me too.
And I find myself actually watching shows more now.
Me too.
But recently I've gotten back into reading after taking a break. After not pushing myself to finish a book.
Yes.
Or trying to finish a book as fast as possible.
And you saw results from that. And now ultimately, now you read more books.
I do.
As a result of taking a step back.
Exactly. And accepting that it doesn't matter how fast I can read a book. It's supposed to be enjoyable. and
Right.
not achievement oriented.
Exactly, and that's something that I experienced with the violin is once I did get that good teacher in
Mm-hmm.
8th grade, I was like, I'm about to go into high school and I still have fundamental basics to still grow on that I'm lacking, and although I can play more advanced pieces, I'm still lacking the basic fundamentals.
Right.
And I've gotten better at accepting that hey, some of these kids have been playing for a lot longer and have had a teacher,
Yeah.
a good teacher for a lot longer. So yeah, they're going to be ahead, and that's just how it is, and it's okay that you're not where you are because this was the circumstances you were given. And so I have started to become okay with my situation and allowing it to be that way instead of beating myself up for not being at the same level when it was in reality out of my control.
Absolutely. And the last topic we're going to touch on is your reliance on others.
Mm-hmm.
And like we mentioned before in the T Journal, episode 7, the support system, is a great resource.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to also touch on it here.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you go ahead?
So, support systems are really important for multiple different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
One, when you need someone to just go to just to hear your side, it's helpful to have people that you feel safe with to process what you're going through. And everybody has a different processing process.
Uh-huh.
But, it's important that you don't do it by yourself because people have a tendency to, mix things up, scramble things up. Excuse me.
You're excused. Talking things out with another person is really helpful.
Yeah.
I feel like having everything in your own head all at once can be really confusing. Think of like a string.
Mm.
And in your head, that string isn't straight per se. It's all tangled up,
Yeah.
in a mess, it's knotted. But when you're talking, you're essentially unknotting that string.
Mm-hmm.
You're allowing things to come out one sentence at a time, one word at a time, and you're able to see things a lot easier.
Yes.
And so when you talk to other people, you may find yourself realizing, oh shoot, I, for example, might be a workaholic.
Yes.
Work might be my life. Mm-hmm. Everything I'm talking about is work related.
Yep.
Whereas in your head, you hear all that stuff all the time. It's normal to you.
Mm-hmm.
But saying it out loud to someone else might make you realize otherwise.
Yes. And I think also one of the biggest things that support systems are good for is when you do achieve things and when you when you do reach those successes, they will celebrate with you, and it helps to have people around you to just say, look at what you did and
Mm-hmm.
look how far you've come. And it's great to have that too. That's all a part of, the achieving success process. And I think when we think about redefining productivity and how we as humans view it, it goes into a lot of the burnout process and how we're saying, you're not allowed to take breaks and you're not allowed to ask people for help, but relying on those other people to say, they can come to you and tell you the truth and say, hey,
Absolutely.
I love you, but I think you're doing too much. Or
I think you have so much on your plate.
Yes.
And I wanted to spend more time with you.
Yeah.
But it feels like you don't have enough time for me.
Mm-hmm. Or you need to take a step back from this. Or even when you're processing something and they have to bring that truth to you,
Mm-hmm.
it gives you a different perspective that us as individuals struggle to see because we can't see it from other perspectives.
Exactly. And it may be hard to grasp in the beginning, but your true support system is going to tell you if they think you need help.
And that's
And they're
something
gonna
we talked about.
be there to help you.
Yeah. And that's something we talked about in that episode is in your support system, you need people who aren't going to sugarcoat it necessarily.
Oh, absolutely. But bring it to you respectfully.
Yes, of course. But you need someone who will tell you the truth and not what you want to hear because that's how you ultimately grow and move through things.
So basically, to wrap up this section, our episode mantra was discovered, which was enjoy, respect, and most importantly, trust the process.
Yes.
Which is essentially making sure that the end goal isn't consuming your mindset. It's the enjoyment that comes with reaching that goal.
Mhm.
In addition, don't forget that your support system is there for you.
Yeah.
And don't feel afraid to rely on them if you need to talk things out or even if you need to hear the truth.
Mm-hmm. And there's strength in that. And I think a lot of people think that's weakness because they want to believe they can do it all on their own. But there's strength in being able to say, hey, I need somebody else. And it honestly, from my perspective, it looks good because you want to hear another side.
Absolutely. And
you're expanding your view.
Hearing.
Yeah, like criticism and stuff.
Exactly.
And it's all part of that process. And this is how this is the steps you ultimately have to take to, having healthier goal setting and a healthier work process, because
Absolutely.
you need to be, my goodness gracious, excuse me, you need to be able to enjoy that process as much as enjoying your result.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think that wraps up Chamomile Corner.
Before we fully end this episode, we would love to apologize for the consistent coughing that was in this episode. I am sick. Sophia is crazy. We love you. Thank you for listening. Thank you so much for listening to this episode.
I hope you'll join us next week on
Sip and Spill.